Is this yet working? So I just want to make sure everyone's settled in before we get started. I know there's a lot of transition happening in the room. So one of the things I think you saw today, you saw a lot of great moderators, all of whom are on the Decode board, right? And I think the one thing that makes us very, very aligned is that we're all very multidisciplinary and we all love to mentor students and young entrepreneurs, right? I think that's a really key theme. And a lot of us joined the board at the same time, and so a lot of us are experiencing our first ever in-person Decode conference. So I want to ask everyone, how many of you are going to be going down to Stanford, down to Santa Clara for day 2 tomorrow? I know that it's a big drive for a lot of you coming from Berkeley. And how many intend to actually participate virtually if you're not going to drive down? Okay. All right, so I want to make sure you guys know there is a day 2. I also want you to know that we transitioned the clocks tonight to daylight savings time. Oh my God, look at you. Hey, buddy. Hey, good to see you. And so you get to sleep an extra hour. So we do start at 9:30 tomorrow, and I'll kick off a panel on the importance of ESG as well as corporate social responsibility and DEI within the world of innovation. And I'll lead a panel in the physical session tomorrow on the emerging opportunities for diversity, equity, and inclusion in the world of entrepreneurship and venture capital. Okay? So I hope to see some of you down in Santa Clara. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start off with this panel. And how many of you are majoring in data science at Berkeley right now, or a double major, and one of your majors is data science? Raise your hand inside, because I know it's a very popular major, okay? So we're going to talk about digital transformation, and I know it's very hard to compete with your phones. I know there's a lot of really cool things on your phones all the time, but I'm going to try to make a case for why this might be relevant, right? So whether or not you understand as you get ready to graduate, digital transformation is in the here and now. Okay? A lot of people talking about the metaverse, whatever that might be. You know, we saw the ups and downs of Web 3.0. But whether you go work for a management consulting firm, whether you go work for a tech startup, whether you go work for a systems integration firm like Accenture or KPMG or Deloitte or Hitachi Vantara, this is the difference between success and failure, life and death for many companies. Okay? How many of you know what Mark Andreessen did before he became the legendary venture capitalist and power broker? Right? In 1994, the public internet was introduced by Mark Andreessen's startup known as Netscape. Okay? Literally 1994, almost 30 years ago. Okay? We have been living in the digital era for close to 30 years. In 2007, a massive inflection point happened. It's called the iPhone. And when we came to March of 2020, and the beginning of the work from home and the economic shutdown, 30 years in, it's insane how many companies were still not able to say that they were digitally ready to compete. And so we have seen an incredible graveyard of companies that have not been able to innovate and compete in the world of digital transformation. Okay? And as we sit here today on one of the greatest public research university campuses in the world where so many people are studying data science, the number of failed data science strategies, the number of failed AI projects is still daunting. The inability to find world-class data scientists is so strong that an iconic company right here in San Francisco, Levi Strauss, is pioneering this crowdsourced approach where they're actually going into their retail stores and they're assessing whether or not their retail employees have an affinity for math and statistics and data science, and they're turning those retail employees into data scientists and machine learning engineers. Okay? So these are all of the challenges that companies face today. And so we have Samta, who is with us from Hitachi Vantara, who is going to help us unpack the importance of how we can use data to drive digital transformation across the economy. So Samta, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So good to have you here.
Yeah.
So maybe just to start, right? We all know the name Hitachi. it's a legacy Japanese company that's been around probably for a century or longer. But tell us about Hitachi Vantara. It's only about a 5 or 6 year old business. So what is the, sort of the thesis or the value prop that Hitachi Vantara brings to the market?
So I think if I started to pull some of you and ask what Hitachi does, I'll probably hear like 5 different or probably 10 different things, right? You do TV, you do rails, you do medical devices, yada yada. But to exactly your point about how the digital transformation needs to happen and how much it is underpinned with technology, that's the realization Hitachi had about 8 to 9 years ago. That's where they said we really need a digital thinking arm to what all you do. Because it is not only about industrialization and making machines, but it is also how do I make those machines think, and how do I make the world connected to each other, right? And that's where the technology and the digitalization comes in. And that's where the existence of Hitachi Vantara kind of came into board is. So you can think about Hitachi Vantara as the digital entity that actually not only serves Hitachi businesses, and if you all not know, Hitachi is actually an inculcation of more than 800 plus group companies. So Hitachi Vantara is one of those group companies, but it is sort of that central digitization powerhouse. And we not only serve our businesses and group companies, but also in that effort also serve our clients when it comes to digitization or any digital pursuits or transformation.
Right. So, in your work, you generate a lot of insights, right, as you go into companies that have probably struggled or failed. And you have a thesis that data is a really critical component in a successful digital transformation and innovation strategy. So can you explain a little bit more about the company's point of view and what you're seeing as sort of the key factors for success in using data in your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Keith mentioned something very interesting, which is what we are seeing all over the place when we are talking to our customers. Remember he mentioned about us throwing away the data, not keeping all the data. So we really firmly believe it's not about being data rich. It's not about the quantity of data that you have, but it is about being data driven. That is very, very important, and that is very critical, right? So if you don't know, 97% of the data today is actually unused. So, and that is costing our economy about $3.1 trillion. So it's a whole lot of wastage that we are doing just thinking that the data is going to benefit us. But the thing is about what do you do with that data, the insights that you actually bring from that data. And that is where we work with our customers in terms of how do you actually derive insights. And that depends on a couple of things, right? Number one is, what do you actually want to do with the data? What are the outcomes that you are trying to drive? And that will determine what data you need, where you need, and how do you need it, right? And then the whole privacy and regulation compliance comes with it. But the point is that having that strategic outlook of what that data means to you and for your business, right? That's certainly very important. Then the second piece comes as to, where we are seeing customers, struggling about, you talked about how many projects are failing, right? 50% of the modernization projects, in fact, are failing, straight out, right? And why? Because also of the organizational complexity. Because not all the time, all the organizations are working together. There is a chief data officer, there is a chief technology officer, there is a chief information officer. How often they talk to each other? And then there is a chief, CTO. So that siloed approach to data is detrimental. That is what makes it fail. And then, the approach is to how do you bring different people together in order to solve for that. That's the strategy side of it. And if I open the kimono box on technology, then like Keith was saying, it's like so vast and so big, and the opportunities are humongous, but that again brings the complexity around the technology.
So there's a piece of research that MIT did pretty recently
And what they concluded, and it may seem very obvious in retrospect, but when a public company board has a critical mass of digitally savvy, data savvy, independent board directors, they dramatically outperform their peers by 25 to 35%, right? Because they're able to break down the silos that come from this artificial competition between business units, between functions, who are all competing for bonuses and promotions. So can you comment a little bit on what you see with your clients, and are we seeing more of an evolution of digitally savvy people into the CTO suite or the CIO suite today, and how important that may be, so that human factor as well and that insight?
I think the data savviness in any function is kind of a must these days. And I think, was that Heidi, right? That she was talking about, right? And she was talking about the same thing, is, whether it is product engineering, whether it is product management, whether it is any C-level suite, right? Or anybody in technology or otherwise, I think the data literacy and our ability to understand what data tells you and doesn't tell you is very important. So I think the need of that data literacy and the understanding is pervasive now.
Okay.
You can't do without it.
Okay. So can you bring some of these examples to life, right? I know that you have some case studies, some client case studies that, not only are they being successful, they're also delivering positive social impact as a result of learning how to work with their data in a way that drives strategy, in a way that drives successful transformation.
Yeah, absolutely, happy to. So one thing is, like, as Hitachi Vantara, or even as Hitachi, right, one thing that is our core mission is that a lot of times when you think about data and you think about the enterprises, you think about, companies' profits, you think about operational efficiency, you think about customer experiences. But for us, it is always what we call double bottom line, which means it's not only about company profits, not only about, experiences, but also something that actually, expands on society and planet. So that is very critical. So to answer your question, the data and technology for good is very, very core to what we do. So for that, let me give you a few examples. So, how many of you think that, deforestation is a data problem? It in fact is. If you think about it, like 2 million square miles, of rainforest today is facing illegal logging issues. So every 2 seconds, about a football size of the forest is kind of getting destroyed. So imagine that, how much it impacts in terms of the plants and the animals that are getting extinct on the planet. Pretty huge problem. And how now think about the data plays into role. This is where we are working very closely with an organization called Rainforest Connections. And what we do here is exactly use the power of data and technology. We are inserting edge devices, what is called guardians, to actually carry or collect all the acoustics data, and actually have analytics behind it to figure out how and when the illegal logging might be happening. So if you imagine, if there is a saw going on and somebody is trying to cut a tree, the voice or the noise would be very different. And actually the animals can hear better than any one of us, and the way they behave could be different, right? So the kind of analytics you can do and actually determine if there could be a potential illegal logging happening is pretty huge. So before, when it used to take 14 days to even figure out where rangers could go and do anything, now it has reduced to 4 days. So things like that. And if you think about that, so like I was saying, every 2 seconds, right, a size of a football field, about 10% of that deforestation actually, amounts to the carbon emission, right? So you are actually saving that. That's the good part of it. So this is how data and technology is contributing towards the good of the society and the planet. Now, to give you another example, we are working with Salford Hospital in UK. you would imagine for Salford Hospital, healthcare industry, patient, care, that's the thing, of course, that benefits the society. Now think about the data and the technology aspect of it. This is where we are building a digital command center where they actually now we have LiDAR technologies, we have tracking technologies where now we can actually see where the nurses are, where the patients are, where beds are available, where the assets are, and actually do pretty intensive analytics and not only figure out in terms of the patient health, but also in terms of hospital efficiencies, and we have improved those things by 15%. So what does that mean, right? If you think about COVID, 15% efficiency in hospital resources to their needs than you would what you had and how much you had. So we do many of these where the data and technology come together, and it is all about how do you benefit the planet and how do you benefit towards the society. And I can go on and on.
A lot of
examples
but
of that.
Let me just mix things up a little bit, right? So let's assume someone in the room's got data science concentration or background, and they come and join your team, right? What kind of roles would they play in the first 18 months of their experience working with you on one of these projects?
Yeah, I think depends on exactly what they want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if it is about a specific project, of course, as a data scientist, you're probably, so a couple of things. You will experience this thing where Heidi was talking about focus groups, right? And talking about actually understanding what the customer problems are.
Mm-hmm.
So what we call this as a design thinking or a co-creation process. So you very well might be sitting with the customers and trying to understand exactly what they are trying to solve. What and how does that outcome matters to them? What are the different constituencies of the stakeholders that play into it, right? Because again, data science problem is not about just crunching numbers and running some analytics on it. It's about exactly knowing what you're trying to serve towards, right? And these kind of design thinking process actually makes our data scientists really strong, because then they understand the vision and the outcome that is really important to drive and what you're looking for, because it's like a haystack, a needle in the haystack, right? You're trying to find, but how can you actually have the right levers in order to know where that needle could be, right? All of those kind of things also come into play. So I think it is not only about data crunching and building analytics, but also spending the time with the customers and the stakeholders to understand the problem, to actually define, what the outcome needs to be.
Okay.
And things like that.
So, as we talked about, right, the demand for data scientists, machine learning engineers is
huge.
It's impossible to fill, and it will be for a very long time. And of course, culture matters. And as I mentioned, Levi's, which is a great brand, right? A great iconic American brand, around for 150 years, struggles because it's not cool enough. And so they have to find people out of their retail stores, right? Now, Hitachi, of course, is a huge name in Japan, but not necessarily a huge name in the US. So how do you attract world-class talent, knowing that it's not Google, or it's not the hottest startup that just came out of the gate and raised $100 million last week? What is it that you need to be able to offer to these young men and women to be an attractive, early career choice for them?
Thank you for that question, because definitely we have this issue of the brand awareness as well as what we do. So this certainly helps. So as I said, it's about the mission and the passion that we have towards making a difference in the society and the planet. That is the double bottom line, right? And we all are always driven by what we are giving back to the society through technology, and that actually drives me every single day, to work for Hitachi and Hitachi Vantara. So I think if you did not know what we did, all you need to do is figure out what kind of impacts we are making, and if that touches you, I think you will find a really satisfying career at Hitachi Vantara doing things that you would love and still being able to make a lot of difference in society and planet. So that's something I would say. Yes, we are struggling with the brand awareness, but again, do explore us and figure that out. I think it's a pretty cool place.
Yeah, so Bill had led a wonderful panel earlier today on, with two really remarkably inspirational social entrepreneurs, right? Mm-hmm. And as a guy that's been teaching for 20 years at schools like MIT and Harvard and Brown, I have seen a dramatic transformation in my own students where it used to be maybe 5% cared about working on something that had some social benefit. Mm-hmm. I'd say it's 90% or higher today, right? So what is it that leads your company to be so focused on, serving the public, about having social, because that's not a typical set of values from a systems integration firm, right? Because you're very deadline driven, right? There's a very complex delivery system, right? It's got to be very, very precise. Mm-hmm. So how did you get there culturally as a company? Because you wouldn't expect it, quite frankly.
Yeah. So actually, this started from the very person who started Hitachi. Yeah. And I have to say I was inspired. I got to visit Hitachi mothership last week for the first time. I had joined Hitachi 3 years ago, but because of COVID, I never got to go to Tokyo and actually see. And I visited, and then I realized that how ingrained this particular philosophy is. So Onodera-san, who actually built the first 5 horsepower motor, he came up with that. His mindset itself was, when he established Hitachi, was that he wanted to build and have technology actually enable and build the lives of people in Japan. The fundamental principle by which Hitachi was evolved or built on day one was that. Okay. Right? So and that is something that the leaders have carried forward, and we have not lost it, thank God. Yeah. Right? So that's where I think it carries forward. To your question about, yes, we are system integrators, but at the same time, again, the choice is ours in terms of what kind of projects you involve with, right? Yes, we do get involved with other projects that may not have all the time the societal benefits, but then more than often we are trying our best to make sure that the work that we do can transform life, can make a difference, and finding the ways to scale so that it doesn't stop at one project, but actually it can scale across many is also very critical.
That's great.
So for example, I don't know how many of you know American Heart Association. We worked with them to actually build an entire medical platform. And the whole premise was that how do you provide a platform for researchers to be able to come and actually research on the data that otherwise is not available to them, right? And that actually was a boon during COVID, because we actually hosted a hackathon challenge where then a lot of researchers globally could come on that platform and actually could start sharing not only the research data, but also their findings to actually accelerate the medicine research, etc. So again, from an operational perspective, when I talk about bottom line, you can think about it that yes, American Heart Association benefited from it because they have more researchers on the platform, so probably more money for them, more profits for them. Yes, because it was on AWS platform, more consumption. Yes, they won. Hitachi Vantara, yes, because we built the services, we are managing it for them, so yes, we won. But look at the end goal, right? For all of it coming together, in the end, it was all about the society. More researchers being able to collaborate and share their research, as well as have access to the data that they need to do actually innovate. That's the benefit, right? So things like that are pretty inspirational for us, and we continue to find those places that makes us do that.
Yeah, let me ask you about one more, which I think people will relate to, which is the Great Barrier Reef, right? So you have some remarkably interesting, high-impact client projects you've worked on. So tell us about what you did there.
Yeah, so how many of you, when you go to your grocery shopping, would actually pick up a grocery and think, how was it produced? How much water did it consume? Probably not many of us, right? But then there is whole horticulture, around Great Barrier Reef that is very important. So that is where we actually work with farms, to make sure that we are actually working towards sustainable farming. So again, using technology, whether it is edge devices and or sensor data and analytics and cloud, and I can go into technology details all day long, but that's not the purpose of it. But the idea is utilizing all of that technology to make sure that we are creating a sustainable farming, right, is where that all come together. So our project in Great Barrier Reef, Australia, with horticulture group was all about is creating that sustainable farming. And that is particularly with the Bartle banana that we worked with, and make sure that it, again, going back to the bottom line, and I kind of think about it's like buy one, get one free. You are, definitely improving your profit margins. You are doing what the customers want you to do, your shareholders want to do, but you're getting the fact that you're benefiting the society and the planet for free, right? So. Yeah.
And then Disney is the last one I'll ask you to talk to us. I mean, obviously everybody knows it's the happiest place on earth, right?
Yes.
So how do you make Disney improve their brand, improve their experience? Because they've done a pretty good job.
Yeah. So honestly, again, if you look at Walt Disney, right, and you look at their mission statement, the mission statement is not about operating profit.
Right,
the mission statement is bringing smiles, believe it or not, right? And that is what drives them. And actually, it was a terrific culture match, because again, yes, operational profits come, but it is about the end goal. It's like, how can we bring smiles? And that is where we work together with many of the rides within Disney parks that you may have actually gone to, whether it is Slinky Dog or Toy Story or the new Star Wars attraction. You talk about it, but this is where we have brought together the technology together and data science and analytics. Because if you think about it, most of these rides are very different in terms of their engineering, mechanical engineering, how much digitalization they use today and what they do today. So it's very, very complex, each of these rides. And actually working with them and building analytics that could work for their rides has been an exciting one, because now we are actually creating digital twins of those rides, so that in real time you are seeing what's going on, and then doing scheduled predictive maintenance on them. Again, helps if you remember how long we wait for a ride, right? It's like if you can save that, then that actually impacts the experiences. So that's the whole idea, is how do we make sure that we enable some of those efficiencies across the park, not only during the rides, but across, in order to make sure that Disney can meet its mission of bringing smiles.
All right, so we've seen a lot of controversy in the press, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe you'll be comfortable answering this question, right? Our good friend Kanye, aka Ye, got himself in a bit of trouble recently, and he was pretty much dumped by every major brand on the planet. Okay, just yesterday, Nike announced that they're parting company with Kyrie Irving for his anti-Semitic comments. So obviously, you guys have a choice. Do you ever, given the moral values of the company, are there instances where you know of a company where you believe that their moral values are not in line with the founding values of Hitachi, where you have chosen, not mentioning any names, but where you have chosen to say, you know what, this is not a brand whose values we abide by, and as a result of that, we don't really believe that we want to be associated with them in any way. Is that a choice that you've seen happen in the 3 years that you've been there? Because I'm seeing more of those choices being made across the globe, and just curious if you've seen anything within your company.
To be very honest, I have not been directly involved in any of those tough choices, so to say. So I wouldn't be able to speak if we are able to say no. We have said yes or no in the last 3 years. But just knowing who we are, I would say that probably we will. Right? And given, and I think to your point, you're saying you're going to actually do a panel on ESG today, right?
Right, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, right? So big topic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, say that's again, something is like all the businesses around the world, it's
Yeah.
like, we are going to do business with the business that is, sustainable, that has
Yeah.
sustainable future.
Right.
So again, it's the
Yeah.
principle of it is like, it's not only about sustainability, but it is about the society and the planet. So I would say,
Yeah.
yes, though I have not seen it with,
Okay.
in the last 3 years.
Great. So I'd like to open it up for questions. Yeah, please, gentleman in the back with the red shirt. Get a microphone coming your way. Now, I think he's getting one for you, or I'll give you mine. He's right over there. Raise your hand. This gentleman with the red shirt, right by you. Okay.
Gotta put the batteries in.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah.
Batteries. Those damn batteries. Yeah. Exactly.
We can try this one.
Here we go.
Oh.
That's
that may be
wired.
tough. Unless you're very strong, that might be
Yes.
tough. Yeah.
All right, thanks so much again for coming out and speaking about this topic. I think as a data science major and as an econ major as well, it was really good to hear about how driven Hitachi is to be involved in kind of the social impact space. I think this kind of touches upon Mike's point of how you still continue to work with companies who are value driven in the same way. I think more coming from a student perspective, I guess a question I have is as a data science major, as a computer science major, whatever it may be, someone who wants to work in the tech space, how do you continue to kind of maintain those values and continue to really like personally, right? I'm very passionate about ESG. I'm passionate about having an impact. How do I kind of maintain that going into, let's say, job search or companies that I want to work for, where I want to be working with the latest technology, but I also want to be having an impact?
Yeah, I think it is about making sure that when you are doing your job search, right, that you feel aligned. Ask those questions of the recruiter, the interview panel of who you're working with. Do your research in terms of do you really see that value being sprinkled around? It'll become obvious to you. If it isn't, you will start seeing signals of that it isn't, right? So if that you're really passionate about, then make sure that it becomes something that you're seeking for in your interviews that you are doing, right? So
let me just
that's-
add, right? So you have to be relentless, right?
Yes.
And again, trust that most companies will spew propaganda at you.
Yeah.
Okay, and unfortunately, that's just the state of the world, right? And so, the recruiters are going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. And it's utopia, but it's about getting behind the scenes, right? Yeah. Ignore the man behind the curtain and the Wizard of Oz. Okay, I'm the great and mighty Oz, right? So, you really have to do a lot of homework, and you need to be skeptical.
Yeah.
And in some cases, one business unit might be extraordinarily values-oriented, and another business unit may be mercenary. And so a lot of it comes down to the group you're in and the people that you work directly for, okay? And you heard Keith mention that, the person that brought him into the company just a few months later left, right? That could change everything.
Yeah.
And that might, drive another choice for you, which is, okay, that person's gone, things will now change. Maybe I can't find what I want here any longer. But the good news is, when I was coming up, right, you had to stick it out, right? If you left before 2.5 or 3 years, you were a quitter, okay? The good news is for you guys, that kind of stigma doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. If you're not feeling it, go find something where you are finding your heartbeat faster.
Yeah.
You don't have to hang out and suffer. Okay, we lived in a very draconian age. You don't.
And
Okay?
don't be afraid to ask
Yeah.
the question. I mean, say, like I said, you have every right to ask the question, and ask of every interview panelist, because then you start seeing the responses you get, how close enough they are or how spread out. That will give you an idea as to if it is really ingrained or if it is just one person's,
Yeah, just
right.
sour grapes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I appreciate the candid response, and I think
Yeah.
honestly there are a lot of cases where forefront, it's always, okay, yeah, we're a great company, we really value diversity, we really value this and that, and then at the end of the day, the actions don't match the words.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great. Other questions? Yeah, please, over here. And I'll give you my much closer. And I don't have a wire.
Yeah, I'm stuck to the wire.
Exactly.
Okay, hi, I'm Misaki. I'm from Japan. So I wanted to ask about I had this dilemma of seeing Japan slow in digital transformation as well as globalization. So how do you see, working in Hitachi, how do you see Japan in future and in terms of global,
You and I had a chance to talk a little bit.
That's great.
So actually, I'm very, very impressed, to be very honest. And especially after meeting the team that I met last week, it was incredible that how much innovation is going on over there. And as you know, Hitachi, we do a lot of rotation programs as well. So clearly, if your heart is that you want to go back to your motherland, go for it. Because nowadays, I don't think the boundaries of, there is no geographic boundaries.
Right.
There are so many programs by which if you feel that there are areas which are not there, you can always come here and learn and go back. So, and I have to say, I did not find that they are short of anything. In fact, there are many innovations that, happened right there, and we collaborate with them very closely. And we talk about what we call about One Hitachi. And that One Hitachi is all about sharing and collaboration and co-creation. And I can tell you, gold nuggets are all over the place. It's not only just being built in US. And there are many, many projects where we are actually picking up a lot of innovation that has come from Japan. And if you think about it, I mean, say, from a Hitachi perspective, the 5 HP motor built in Japan, progressed in 2 years. 1910 in 1912 was a 300 HP motor, and then it never stopped, right? The innovation. So again, I think I was very, very impressed where, where the talent is there, and even if there are areas, I think the curiosity of the engineers there and the fact that you can get an opportunity to rotate opens the whole slew of avenues for you.
Right.
It's nice to hear how optimistic you are.
I am, I seriously am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So where's my timekeeper? How are we doing, Mr. Timekeeper? Did we lose our timekeeper? Okay. I'm glad you woke up for that. Thank you. Okay. All right. We have time for one last question before we wrap up. Anybody have a question for Samta? All of our data science major. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ali, and then I'm going to go to the gentleman in the back. Okay, Ali, please.
Go for it. No, go for it.
All right. Let me give this. You got it. Yeah. Okay. Great. Go.
I have a question about business. I have similar situation like you. We are a small company, and we have struggling with talent. I think our leaders, we all have visions, and then we all share our vision with the people who want to join in. But however, we do struggle with finding people competing with big guys. They grab all the resources, the money, and I want to see what exact strategy you are attracting people to work for you, work for Hitachi.
Yeah, it is not easy. I have to say that, right? Because you are fighting with the big names, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world, where everybody aspires to be, especially this young crowd, right? But the fact that when people come and see what exactly we are doing, and they actually see it so much ingrained in what we do day in and day out, it does make a difference, right? And that is where we are actually starting to think about instituting some university programs also, so that some of the students can actually come and live the life that we do, so that they can see. But it is not easy, I have to say. I have to tell that, right? Right now, it actually sometimes becomes a numbers game. It's unfortunate, but it is that way. And offshore, a lot of offshore hiring as well is where we depend on too.
I will say this, right? I've hired hundreds of my own students in my 8 startups. You have to create a culture.
Yeah.
And this goes, if you were here for Esther's talk, right? What Esther said is equally relevant to founders and leaders of big companies and startups, right? She used the word control, but I'd like to use the word autonomy, right? I want to give the people that work for me the autonomy to bring their best self to work every single day. And I want to create a brand where that is very well known, right? So that when you come work in my organization, you know that you're going to be given a tremendous amount of latitude to solve problems that matter to you, right? And that you align with the values and the culture of the company, right? Because technology is technology, right? So, and data science is data science, but
Right.
how you apply data science and technology within a corporate culture or a startup culture or a nonprofit or NGO culture makes all the difference in the world, between the person that is there for 6 months and gets burned out and frustrated and leaves, to the person that, just as you can see with Samta, right, genuinely enthusiastic about what she's doing. And you cannot put enough value on that. That is the difference between, drawing people in or repelling them, quite frankly. Okay, so Ali, you've got the last question, if you still have it, yeah?
Sure,
Okay.
I'd love to.
Let me give you the microphone. So Ali, by the way, is going to be on my morning DEI panel. She is the founder of a fashion tech startup, a former Accenture employee that was a DEI futurist, if that's correct, an ESG futurist. So Ali, welcome, and please.
Thank you. You asked a great question on your Let's
Yeah.
talk later about that. So my question is, Hitachi obviously is known for so many incredible innovations and helping so many companies around the world thrive. You've been there for only 3 years, but you talk about so many different industries in which you're helping to propel them into the future. What are you most excited about, or what trends are you most excited about in innovation in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, just answer like,
Yeah.
like Keith did earlier.
Yeah.
Do a
It's
whole day
like
symposium on that question. Yeah, exactly.
Which innovation I'm most excited about? I think there is so much that still we have not figured out when it comes to AI and ML. There is just humongous opportunity in front of us. I mean, there is cryptocurrency, there is metaverse, all of those kind of things, right? But I think from what I hear clients facing day in and day out and the kind of outcomes and impacts they are trying to drive, I feel that we have just scratched the surface when it comes to AI and ML, and there is so much that we have to do, whether it is digital twins or you name it, but lot to be done in that area, in my view. So I think we are just unleashing that right now.
Yeah, great. Thanks for your great questions, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.